When do we actually see the bills go through Parliament? The expectation was that this week itself. Is it likely to happen tomorrow or next week, sir?
Well, I think next week is more likely for the reason that the Council cleared those bills only last weekend, and thereafter there is a long procedure involved. It involves clearing those draft legislations by the Cabinet. The Legislative Department has to do the final corrections. Then the statement of objects and reasons has to be done for each of those legislations. And all that exercise has now been completed in the last 2-3 days. So people have been working almost round the clock. It goes for presidential assent, and I have already given notice, and hopefully one of these days, early next week, it should be introduced in Parliament and then taken up for consideration.
So the big question, of course, is as far as the fitment of rates is concerned, and that is not going to be a matter that the GST Council will take up when it meets on the 31st of March. By when do you expect that there will be clarity on the rates, sir?
Well, after the 31st meeting, our experts who've been assisting the Council will start working on the rate structure. Now, in the first instance, so as not to upset the apple cart, we are following a more logical arithmetical formula.
Okay.
Which is how much is the central excise a particular commodity is paying, how much is the VAT it is paying, what is the total amount of incidental taxes you pay, and we try and fit you next to the nearest slab. Mm-hmm. So if, let us say, somebody is paying 5 or 7%, then you get into the 6% slab.
Okay.
A very large number of items which are of the common man user, food items in particular, will continue to remain in the zero-rated category.
Okay.
Why we have consciously fixed, despite some ill-informed comment, two standard rates of 12 and 18.
Yes.
That assuming somebody is today paying 10%, now it's possible to fit him into the 12% category. And it's possible to fix somebody paying 13 or 14% into the 12% category. Mm-hmm. But if from 10% we had suddenly taken them to 17% or 18%, I think that would have been a shock as far as those commodities are concerned. One of the objects is not to increase inflation. There should be no tax on tax. Therefore, the actual eventual amount the consumer is paying must come down. Mm-hmm. And keeping those facts in mind, I think this exercise will be repeated. The only case will be that those who go into the higher slab, that is the 28% category.
Right.
Because if you total the number of taxes that some of those commodities are paying, they are today 31, 32, 30%. So they'll be brought down to 28% level. And many of them are no longer, they're technically considered luxury items, but are now being used even by, let's say, the average person,
yes, which
would include a lower middle class.
Yes.
Now, do you put television in a very high category or even a refrigerator in a very high category? Because that impact is increasing. So we'll have to take a discretion with regard to those as to in which category we fit them. And that's the exercise.